Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Fixed Real Estate. Today we have Fred Glick and René Pérez on the show. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Howdy, everybody, and hello.
How's it going, René? So, gosh, this has been a monumental shift in the last 7 days. You guys have reached instant fame for something you've been preaching for years. Fred, why don't you fill us in on this?
Well, 2017 is when I started doing fixed fees in the Bay Area, and now obviously it's spread to all over California, Washington, Texas, and Pennsylvania, and soon to be in some other states. But I got contacted by a reporter of the Wall Street Journal, and she said what she was doing, and this was before last Friday's stuff. So
Yeah, I remember
keep
that.
that in mind. She said, I'm doing a story on alternative types of brokerages that aren't doing the standard realtor way to do it, the 2.5%. I had something that was a fixed fee. One question she asked me, she says, who's your competition? And I said, I don't know of any. There's nobody I know of doing a fixed fee with high-end service, working through Slack, having just brokers run the deals. I mean, we're kind of an anomaly, and I think the model really works, and it's shown. So they did a brief article. They got one of our people who were both a buyer and a seller with us to put a comment in, which is good. And that was great. And then from that, I got a phone call from ABC News, the reporter who you didn't even see in the report. And because she saw the article, and we talked about different things and what's going to change. And she got a hold of one of our buyers who had a cute little thing in the park. It's kind of cute. So our phone's been blowing up, people all over the country. Hey, do you do this in Florida? Are you in New York? Are you in, where else do we get it? Idaho, Tennessee, right. So, obviously we're not licensed there, but we're making friends. I'm taking names. Who knows where we'll be and what. But I actually had somebody said, how do I get out of a listing contract that I just signed? Oh, because I didn't know about you guys. I don't know. I'm not going to be in the middle of that, but it's unfortunate. But we've had some good conversations with people and explaining to them in detail, giving them my favorite word, context of what we do and how we do it differently. And I won't go into all that on the podcast, but you can go to arrivva.com/sellers and find out all that info.
And listen to the past podcast, because we do talk about context quite a lot on this show.
Yeah. And what's interesting, and this might be a podcast down the road, is I think the very first podcast I did like 3 or 4 years ago, I said how to be an Arrivva buyer. And we need to redo that. Seller too, but buyer is important because it's all going to change. So let me go into what you think you've heard, what the reality is, and kind of the update. This is March 21st, so it was done last Friday. Go on TikTok and Instagram and everywhere, and Twitter, and these agents are screaming. I had one that blames the Biden administration for screwing buyers. It's like, dude, seriously, really? For years and years and years, you've been screwing buyers and sellers. And guess what? The Justice Department got involved. Lawyers got involved. Why do you think there was these billions of dollar judgments against the agents? It's like, yeah, it's Biden's fault. Really? Morons. Just absolute morons. Anyway, so here's the story. Last Friday, the NAR announced they had a settlement agreement on the one class action suit, the Stitzer suit, and they were covering all the small brokerages and all the realtor-owned multiple listing services. Okay, there's a distinction. There's some that are owned by the brokers themselves, like up in Washington. But the whole thing is, if the judge approves it, and by the way, there's about 16 companies who have to opt into this, who haven't decided what they're doing, including Compass, and a bunch of the big ones, Berkshire Hathaway. So we don't know if they're going to be included in this or not, but the MLSs are. And this is the key to the whole thing. Around somewhere in July, allegedly, when we put a listing, anybody puts a listing up in the MLS, right now we can put how much compensation is the seller paying to the buyer broker. And, it's the 3 and the 2.5% that everybody talks about, but that's not required. It's all 100% negotiable. And it's going to be eliminated. So there's going to be nothing in there to allow for the seller to directly pay the buyer broker. But here's the good buts. Let's take an example. You and your buyer agent, by the way, your buyer agent has to have a written contract with you for what they're going to get paid. Like we've had forever. And by the way, it is law in the state of Washington as of January 1st, but we've been following it. And our insurance company requires it. And we don't want to work with anybody if you're not on a contract. We want everybody to know what the terms and conditions are. So, for example, right now in California, our form, which is approved by the California Association of Realtors, which will be rewritten, I'm sure, says we take $97.50 at the close of escrow, never anything up front. If you have an agent who wants money up front, run. No matter what you've signed, run. And you currently get the rest of the buyer broker fee, whatever it is. And there's different things you can do with it, like make it part of your offer, take it tax-free afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in the future, it's just going to say that number. So let's just make up some numbers. So we have a buyer and they're paying $97.50 and they want to buy this house for $1 million and seller agrees, theoretically, right? You have to put it in writing in theory. So the buyer says, hey, you know what? Can you have the seller pay the buyer broker fee? So let's make it $1,009,750 sale price. So now I can go or the buyer can go and finance 80% of that. So they're financing their buyer broker fee over the long term. Now, the property has to appraise, and that's another problem that everybody's going to run into, but I'm not going to go into the details of that at this point. But remember that, surprise, surprise, everyone, the real estate appraiser knows the sale price before they do the appraisal of the property. So surprise, surprise, most of the appraisals come in at the sale price. So anyway, so that's one way that this is going to be circumvented. And you know what? That's going to work for people who just can't scrape the money together. The $200,000 FHA with 100% gift, and then they have to pay, let's say, $6,000 in a buyer broker fee. They just throw it into the sale price and they finance it in. So that's what's going to happen in those lower priced properties. And that's kind of the sort of solution, because it's a negotiable thing, but kind of everybody's kind of going to do it. And we're going to fall into this pattern, and it's sort of kind of going to be the same. I'm saying sort of kind of because it's not approved by the judge. The other companies aren't tied in. So there's no definitive plan to say this is how it's going to be. But that's kind of the generic overview. Now, second part of all this is the real estate brokers who are, the biggies and all that, are scrambling how they're going to make money, because the buyer broker fee, which should be interesting to see, like most companies had a minimum commission of 2.5%. So are they going to make it? You have to get 2.5%. We don't know. We're not going to do that, obviously. But now what they're going to say is, well, we're going to have to do different kind of marketing on the property. It's going to be different. So we're going to start charging more money to list your house. And I got an example of something, and I slacked this to you, Drew, so you can put this up in the video. This chart, a sample of choose your marketing plan. Now, this is from a big brokerage. I won't say who, and this was given to me by somebody who was on a big call with all these big brokers about maybe this is the way it's going to work. But, up to 5% to list your house. It's like,
do I screen share this thing?
We can do that. It is
very interesting. That 3%. So it's a plan based on the sale price of the house for value added services.
Yeah. So there it is. So who knows?
2%, a 3%, a 4%, and a 5% plan for those people that are listening. And basically on 3%, the agent pays all the marketing. And then 4%, you get virtual tours. 5%, you get home staging and consultation. Okay. A dedicated website. They always throw that.
So at the 5%, we do drones, we do staging, we do the website for the property, we do absolutely everything, and we're at $15,750. Plus, we order all the inspections. I mean, I'm sorry to toot our own horn here, but we're going to blow the doors away on these people. It's just silly.
Well, because this plan, if you look at it from its just the bare skeleton, it makes sense. But I think it should always be on a structure of if you get more, you pay more. But here's the disgusting issue with this plan here. You want to charge so much money, and actually, if you can put the put the schedule, the pricing schedule up. Let's say you're getting a website, right? If you want to charge more for that website, where's the website in this marketing plan?
5%.
The 5%, and it's on the 4%.
No, local advertising is in 4%.
Okay,
Whatever that means.
Okay, a website, a domain name will cost at the most $100. And I'm saying this at
what domain name you're buying? They're like $12.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, but that's what I mean, though, right? Like if you want to buy a .ai domain name, that's why I want to keep it open, right? Like you can buy expensive domain names, but for the most part, a standard address is going to cost between $12 to $40.
Yeah,
that's the standard. So to say, oh, you have to pay 1% more to get a domain name, it's ridiculous.
It's insanity. The whole thing's insanity.
But I see a future. No, because I think one of the struggle with the commission system is that a lot of agents don't get paid for a lot of the work they do, right? I think nobody can disagree with that. Agents run around, and they don't get compensated. The problem is that that agents should not make other buyers pay for the flaws of other customers that don't actually end up buying or selling a property. That's just, I think nobody can really disagree with that, right? And I think what should happen is a more transparent actually expense and cost to your presentation. So I think this is ridiculous. This is insane, but at least kind of putting like a plan of like, okay, it's changing. Now, one thing that Fred mentioned earlier of commissions always being negotiable. I see in almost every social media post that commissions have always been negotiable, but that's not really true.
The commissions have always been negotiable, but they didn't negotiate.
Well, that's what I mean, though. That's what I mean, though. They should have always been negotiable, but agents do everything they can to say, oh, well, this is just my commission. That's it. Right?
Yeah. So or this is normal. Everybody charges the same. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
That can't do that anymore.
When agents say, oh, commissions have always been negotiable, then okay, then where is your historic, posts about saying that you have different plans of your commission, right? And actually being transparent of why exactly you're charging them. I mean, right here for yard signs. I mean, why not have every single item, really, really transparently priced? And I know it's more difficult. Everybody wants simplicity, and that's why it probably hasn't been done. But I think that's the only real future that we can really kind of have. People should pay right for the actual cost of things. That's just transparency.
Well, and people should pay for the cost of things. So I'm looking at this chart here, and every one of these plans, the seller is going to pick the 2% to the 5%, but the person that isn't even involved in the sale, the buyer broker, is responsible for the fee. So it's not even the selling agent that's responsible.
No, this is the fee to list your property. This is for selling.
It says buyer broker is responsible for all the fees.
Yeah, for their buyer broker fees. Yeah, that's what it means. The buyer broker.
Not the marketing plan fee.
Right. It's not involved. Yeah, it's not in there. It's just costing you to list the property 5%.
Oh, okay.
Imagine. Oh, and speaking of overpaying for marketing their house, René, go ahead, slam them. Remember what you were posting something on LinkedIn about somebody with a very large property in Africa?
So before I get to that, so don't let me forget about that.
Okay.
I want to make one huge mention, right? A lot of first-time home buyers, and a lot of buyers in general think that this is going to negatively affect them because now they're responsible for the buyer broker fee. But the reality is that every consumer that's purchasing property has always paid for the buyer broker fee, except that in the past, you haven't had a chance to negotiate that commission. You were forced into this idea that, the seller pays the commission. But it's always been that the real truth is that the seller pays a commission with the buyer's money. That is the actual true statement.
Yeah.
So
that's
now,
why we do the rebate. We're just giving you back part of the purchase price.
so if you still want to pay, so if you still want to pay the buyer broker 2.5%, you can still make the seller pay that 2.5% fee. But now it's going to be a matter of like, is that how you want to use your money? Because the seller doesn't care about the commissions. The seller cares about the net price that you get after they sell the house.
Exactly.
Right.
Net,
So-
net. It's simple mathematics, which most agents can't even conceive of. That's the other problem. So,
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, René.
So with that being said, and I'm gonna have you correct the name here, Fred, because you're better at saying names. There's
Mark Andreessen. Let me say it.
Mark Andreessen. He is just a well-known billionaire. I mean, he's created a bunch of
DC guy?
Netscape.
Capital?
That guy.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Now, I wanted to bring that transaction, for example, as a prime example, really, of what's wrong with the real estate market. He put his house in Atherton on sale for $33.7 million 2 days ago. Now, I know that agents do a lot of work.
Mhm.
Now, if you see this listing, and I'm missing a lot of context here, but if you see this listing, there's no 3D Matterport. There's no floor plan. I don't even know if
What
there's
a
a
joke.
right? So I don't know what this agent's being paid for, right? But even at this price point, there's no real open houses, right? Everything's by
there wouldn't be. You don't
Well,
want an open house with
of course,
Yeah.
but exactly. So for that case, since there's going to be no open houses, is that agent getting paid less? Probably not. When that agent negotiated that commission, they probably said, well, you know what? The listing commission is 2 to 6%, right? So what it ended up being is, I don't know what the listing agent is getting paid, but what I do know on the MLS is that they are offering a 2% commission for the sale, which if they get the sale price of $33.7 million, the commission is $660,000.
And if we find a buyer, you get all that except the $97.50.
Yeah, but regardless of what you charge, right? I think the commission issue is in a lot of these big markets like California. Like, I understand that 3% is fair in markets like the Midwest. I think a lot of
Or
agents
low price property. Yeah, sure.
for a property that's in the price point of 300, 400K. But when you get to these multi-million-dollar properties and you're getting more than a 2 years worth of salary for a doctor, I think something is messed up, right?
Well, I'm calling out Mark Andreessen to tell his buyer broker to change it, make it a flat fee, do something, but you're wasting $600,000.
Yeah.
It's like, really, dude?
And I know
probably if this
billionaires-
listing agent sells it, he's going to double pop it and make both sides of the commission.
Yeah. And any investor, and sometimes people will say, oh, well, if you have a lot of money, you don't care about money. That's not true. You made money. It's because you've known how to make sure that you get the best investment you can. And right now, Mark Andreessen is losing $2 million just in fees that they shouldn't have to admit.
Now this house may sell, or there may not be any more work done to it. What about all these houses like in Beverly Hills that are like 88 million? And
Same
companies
deal.
like the agencies spend
Same
like
deal.
120,
And they're on
on
selling
a video,
Sunset or selling Stupid or one of those.
and they're doing
shows.
these $100,000 videos.
And it is BS, but there's more of this context, right? Like sometimes agents will say, oh, well, I'm going to market the house differently. I'm going to host this party and I'm putting $100,000 in just this party. Well, what if you don't do that party? I think if you're going to use a lot of that commission in order to market the home, I think it should be used efficiently. I've never seen anyone say that I'm going to market the home by putting signs at airports where I know that a lot of executives are going to see the houses. No, it's always some BS party where the agent gets to say, look at my listing to market themselves. So I think it should be fair to have an action plan that's actually going to legitimately help the consumer. If you're spending $100,000 in Google ads for the home, okay, fine. That 2% might make sense. But I think when there's just a blanket statement of, oh, well, I'm just going to have these marketing, this great marketing done without actually a cost estimate, I think that's what's wrong.
I think we need to total this podcast. Mark and Andreessen, we love you. You're a brilliant dude, but Mark's takes out by a real estate.
No. I think that he is a victim. He is a victim.
Good word.
He has been getting lied to by agents saying that if he doesn't put
allegedly.
No, well, this is not an allegation. No, I know for a fact that he's being lied to. Because he's being lied to by the mass media.
Because no agent will show the property and let you pay a certain percentage. Is that
it's happened to
lie?
us. It's happened to us, right? Where agents, where sellers come to us saying, well, but if I don't offer the 2.5% fee, like, aren't there people not going to come see the property? So people already come with that mentality, and people rather not risk that. Because me as a listing agent, I tell sellers that risk, right? Because that does exist. I know agents. I've talked to hundreds of thousands of agents who say they won't show a property.
Yeah, I'm not showing that property. You're only paying. Yeah, we had one where we're paying 1.25, and a guy calls me up and says, "Well, what's the story here? I don't want to waste my time. It's only for 1.25%." So
exactly.
I said, "Dude, really? Have you talked to would you like us to call the Justice Department so they can come and talk to you?"
It's like, so Mark is a victim of knowing that there's a chance that some agents won't show the property if he doesn't offer 2% commission. But I can guarantee you that any buyer would not want to pay that much of a buyer broker fee to get represented in that transaction.
This is coming into my brain just now, but this is an alert. This is going to happen. In Southern California, where you have separate escrow companies from title, which you don't have to have. We use a combined Fidelity National that does escrow and title, one person, everything's fine. But these escrow companies that are owned by the Keller Williams of the world, where we had deals with, and they were charging like $6,800 for our side of the transaction and doing the same on the other side. You're going to see them jacking up the prices of escrow companies. So it's insanity. And here's the story. In Los Angeles County, the seller picks the escrow company because the way the deed is, and you can contact your real estate lawyer who can explain that all. But the bottom line is, until we sign the contract for the buyer, then we get a hold of the escrow company. And then the escrow company, if we ask, tells us what the fees are. And it's like, the fees are out of their mind. And they charge by a percentage, some of them too. It's like, they're not doing any more work. It's not any more liability. It's a bunch of crap. So that's another profit center that's going to get jacked up. Insanity. We don't want to own an escrow company. We don't want anything to do with it. We like Fidelity National. They can, big company, get things done. We got a great agent there. So, we go on and on and on and on about this, but let's move on to another harrowing thing.
Let's talk about the 3D printed architecture.
I saw this article, and this thing was just cool. Basically, I've always been thrilled by these 3D cement printed places. Now they're coming out, not only being able to print with multiple different types of material, but also they're developing the software to basically be your architect. So you could say, I want a 2-story house that I can put on a piece of land in a ski resort that's going to have a separate bedroom on the second floor and deck all the way around and a high-end kitchen. Boom. The AI designs it for you. It then not only designs it, once you approve it, you can walk through it like a 3D Matterport. You can tell it what colors you want. It will then do all the specs, price everything out, and then be able to construct it by 3D printer. It is so freaking awesome. And 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, that's going to be what Toll Brothers is going to do. They're going to print a house in 15 minutes kind of thing. And it's going to be the end of the sticks and bricks. And the guys who are the construction guys should start looking for something else to do in a couple of years, because there's going to be no more, even though lumber is efficient, so they say, this is going to replace it. It really is. It's going to be a pleasure. It's going to be great for ADUs in California that the whole state's been pushing the ADUs. Put an ADU together and, really simply, the cities themselves have to adjust to it. They have to learn about it. They have to approve these things.
Yeah, these
yeah,
are just
they're
beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not what you think when you're looking at 3D printed. It's not like
3D
the
printed
Fred Flintstone's
architecture.
houses.
Is the way to put it. Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes about where to go to see this. But it's
Codex.
It's freaking cool. Fire resistant, water resistant. Put them up in Malibu so you don't have to worry about the fires. And then we'll leave this. This puts into the other thing with insurance. Where as predicted, these insurance companies are not being kind here in California for getting new insurance. We had a deal this week where AAA said, we're not going to insure it because we don't like the age of the roof. So they're getting super duper picky. So what this is going to do is reduce the cost of insurance of a house like this because it doesn't burn. So it's all kind of good news eventually. So this stuff is coming. Hopefully we see it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this is exciting. I can't wait to start seeing these. They look beautiful, and they can only get more beautiful.
Exactly.
And they fit in with the landscape too.
And they're cheaper than stick and brick construction. Oh my God, by a ton. Liability insurance comes down significantly for the builder.
Yeah.
Labor comes down significantly. Costs of getting somebody. You need a door, and you get these special doors made in somewhere. You can't get them because they had a train derailment. You just print it. It's great. Eventually, repair guys will be able to do that. You need a widget. Cars, you need something. You just print it.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a beautiful world when that happens.
That's fantastic.
So that's a good thing to end on.
No, that's a good one. René, what's your good thing to end on?
This conversation of commissions is not stopping anytime soon. I beg people to not just follow the latest article and think that that's the end of it all. It's to stay informed, know that commissions are beginning to finally be negotiable, and that you can just get your own information, because as a consumer, you're probably going to always advocate for yourself more than anyone else. So,
yeah,
that's my end. That's my final note.
And you have a favorite for March Madness?
No, I sadly haven't had any time to look at sports. Real estate business.
I'm off to go see Gonzaga play right now.
Right now, I see Tampa Bay and Winnipeg in the finals. So, oh wait, I'm talking basketball. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, today's basketball.
Okay. Hockey playoffs in a month.
Oh, come up quick. Coming up quickly. But we will feature that. So it's been another episode of We Fix Real Estate. Have a great weekend, everyone. And we will talk to you again next week.
Bye.